Hello and welcome back to the Sensitivity Doctor. This is Dr. Amelia Kelley. I am so excited to share this episode with you. Do you ever notice that when you're having a really rough day or you're stressed, that music can mean everything? Well, in this episode, you're going to get to hear from an amazing musician, Deepak, who has this whole platform he's created called DPAK World. He has toured and has been featured in LA Times, USA Today, but it's not just about that. He was so compassionate and sweet, and he shares some of his music with us right on the episode. We get to experience what chanting sounds like, a little bit of his new music, different things about frequencies and how they impact your body. It was just such a cool episode. I feel like I walked away feeling better, more centered, and more energized. And I really think you guys are all going to feel the same way. So tune in, view in, and enjoy. And don't forget, if you want to learn more or see more of these episodes, please follow, subscribe, rate, share. It is something I would really appreciate as we build this highly sensitive community. See you soon and enjoy. Well, thank you for being here, Deepak. Welcome to the Sensitivity Doctor podcast. And I am so thrilled to have you here today. You're about to talk about one of my favorite things ever, which is music and creative therapies in a way too. So could you tell our listeners a little bit about, what got you into this, what led you towards this form of healing, and maybe even some of the cool experiences you've had along the way?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in Maryland, first generation Indian American with, just a strong background in a lot of different subjects, because, growing up in this country and also growing up with the South Asian background, there's a lot of like ambition, like you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, or an engineer or computer scientist. So, a lot of that was happening, but I also grew up with a very rich, sense of music. Music is a big part of our culture in India. There's a lot of dancing and colors and, a lot of celebrations a part of it. So it was a blessing to grow up with that well-rounded mix. And so I was doing music my whole life. I played violin since I was about 5 years old and was always singing. And, music was always a huge part of my life. But it wasn't ever a thought that I would be applying that as a career. I definitely was on path to be a doctor or a lawyer. I went to college for neurobiology, physiology, criminology, criminal justice. And so that's where it all kind of starts making sense, is that I did have a background in wanting to help people get into medicine, to health, and really studying a lot of that, and also seeing where, people, especially when I was in college, I would see people struggling, including myself, and would just be more reflecting on like, how can we help with increasing focus? How can we help with ADHD and things like that? Like I was diagnosed with all these different focus issues and ADHD, but was still a high achieving person, but always like wondered how to get better at focus, and noticed over time that breathing and meditation really is what got me there. And that's really where it all glues together, is like, being from my background, which is Indian, we have our culture where yoga and meditation are deeply embedded in, the root of India. Like a lot of the spirituality is there, but a lot of it wasn't necessarily embedded into like my childhood necessarily, as much as more just the religion and the food. And so as I was going through college and realizing and learning about breathing and meditation on my own here and going back to my roots, I started seeing that helping a lot with, my studies and just me being calmer. And then all of a sudden music came into it where, I'm feeling the same feeling while I'm playing music or while I'm listening to music. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. The same feeling I get while I'm meditating and breathing that makes me calm and lowers my breathing and lowers my heart rate, lowers my cortisol, my stress, my blood pressure, all of these scientific things was happening also during music. And so I started really doing research into music and the benefits of music, and seeing that it had very similar parallels to breathing and meditation. I'm like, oh, so, fast forward, I did finish my pre-med and pre-law and did want to become a doctor, but I started like really seeing also what music could do for me as a performer, because I was coming at music first as a performer, not as a healer, but as it just is really fun. People are enjoying the concerts. I love Michael Jackson. I love Coldplay. I love Radiohead. I love the music, and it makes me feel good. And it really is that simple. It just feels good. But now we realize scientifically that feeling good is healthy. And so it all does make sense. Like, you want to feel good. You want to have warm feelings of serotonin in your body and dopamine and those kind of things. And when you get those, it helps your immune system. It helps your neurotransmitter release. It helps your hormone balance. So it all does tie hand in hand to have emotions being regulated. Music helps with that. How we think helps with that, our mindset. happiness and joy. Being around community helps with that. And then there's music. And so I just got really passionate about, playing music and concerts because it made me feel good. It makes other people feel good. And then I started bridging my science background into it in the more recent years and seeing I could get more intentional about being not just a performer, but intentionally being a musical healer. So that's sort of like the summary of how it all kind of merged together.
Oh, I'm loving it. Yeah, I have to say music is something that has been personally a big part of my life as well. I played all the different random instruments you do in elementary school, but I singing has always been the thing for me. And I'm currently in like a local band. I'm not, touring with anyone or, going and doing anything major. We donate our proceeds to local charities. It's just for fun and for healing. But it's so crazy because I think about the nights that I have practice and it's hours of collaborating with other musicians who are very positive. For me, that makes a big difference. Like if the people that I'm creating with have that good energy, I always sleep better those
Yeah.
nights than any other night when I have practice. And so I wonder when I think about people that I work with, my clients or people listening, if they don't feel, quote, musical, like if this is something that they don't feel like, well, I don't know how to play an instrument or I don't have time to join a band, how can someone like that be able to gain all these benefits that, as you're saying, the science supports is so good for us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of that?
Yeah, I mean that is the beautiful thing about music. It's a universal language, and you don't necessarily have to be the one singing. You can be the one listening and receiving. That said, I happen to believe that everyone at heart inside has a voice. That everyone can sing, whether they're gonna go be the next Beyonce or Justin Timberlake. It's not about that. It's that, everyone's got a voice. We all speak. We all have a vibration, and we are vibration. We're made of vibration. So, you know. I mean, it does come down to just simply if you at the least are going to listen to music, you're going to feel better. The science does show this. It helps, like you just said, with sleep. It benefits sleep. It benefits with hormone release, serotonin, dopamine, other. And there's different types of music that can have different effects. They've shown all sorts of studies where they play people and they hook people up to these neurotransmitters. These measurement devices.
Wouldn't that
I'm
be
blanking.
cool if we could hook up to
Yeah,
neurotransmitters?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
like, I'm feeling a little ick today. I'm just going to hook up to some
Let me
serotonin.
hook
I'm
up to
good.
some. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My brain's it's like 6 in the morning here in LA or 7 in the morning, so I'm forgetting the term. But when they hook you up to the thing and it brainwave measures your brainwave function, and
Uh,
it's shown that there's different effects of different types of music and different types of ways of stimulating the human mind when you get in, and you can put someone into an REM state or the different states, sleep states, or just being awake or meditative states, and measure brainwave function and the effects of different types of music. And then they've been doing studies with specific frequencies like 432 hertz frequencies, 528 hertz frequencies, and have literally shown double blind tests that the heart rate slows down, the blood pressure goes down, the cortisol goes down with even changing the frequency of the music. So I've been really getting into that now. So that's kind of the long answer to your question is like even if you're not necessarily making the music like your rehearsal where you're feeling like you're good sleeping, I'm with you. Like when I play music, when I perform, I get really invigorated. Sometimes the opposite. Sometimes like after a big concert, I get energized and I can't sleep, which is not
yeah.
necessarily a bad thing because I'm just pumped up about life and being around community and people. So it can go both ways. Either way, I look at it as a positive because it's causing an effect, a positive effect, whether it's inspiration or relaxation. Those are both positive things. But
Right.
but yeah, with 432 hertz frequencies on top of that, I've been incorporating that into a lot of my new music because now that if that's shown itself to be, let's say, a little bit better than a 440 hertz, that the normal 440 hertz frequencies, which people, if they don't know, that's sort of the standard tuning that's out there on most instruments is
Hmm.
440 hertz. Most of the music on the radio is that, but there's some groups
Okay.
like Radiohead and that kind of tease it, even Coldplay sometimes, where they change the pitch a bit, and it's actually creating an even more healing effect just because of the actual frequency shift. So that's now we're getting into some deeper scientific elevation right there.
That's really cool. I never knew that. I wonder
Yeah.
if that's so, as a highly sensitive person, I notice if I have had a really intense day or a lot of clients, I come home and I don't like having dinner without any music. I like kind of need it to help my nervous system relax. And my family has almost created a joke about it where I walk in and I have maybe like one or two artists that I feel calm enough to listen to. Have you ever heard of Iron and Wine?
I have.
Oh, that something about the frequency of his voice and like the way that his music comes out, it's just it's so regulating to my nervous system. Whereas if it's something totally different or something I'm not familiar with or even a little bit too invigorating, it's like I lose my appetite. I'm not relaxed enough to kind of sit in front of my dinner. It's very bizarre.
Right. And that's kind of what we're getting at is that not only is it different types of music that can cause different responses, but then it's also a very individual experience because we all have our lives growing up. Like I have songs that are specific to me that I remember I was in a memory and it sparks our own internal memory. So it becomes a very personal
Right.
experience, and it's like this is my song when I was 7 years old, that I love, and it reminds me of my mom, and it's only going to be for me that song has that specific experience, and it will bring up past emotions, and it could bring up there's relationships. Everyone's got music that hits them in different ways. Like there's falling in love with someone, and there's also breaking up and recovering from that. And like the power of goodbye by Madonna is a song of mine that I remember that has this emotional feeling of
It
during a
is a very
breakup.
emotional song.
It's an
Yeah.
emotional song, but it gives me the tears. But sometimes that's the medicine I need is that sadness and release that gets
Right.
me. So sometimes you just need a little spark to actually wake up your own internal somatic cathartic release, whether it's emotional or So that, again, that's why music really is a medicine, and not every medicine's for every moment. Just like food, and just like certain garlic is for this purpose, and then, not everything is for every moment. And I look at music very much like medicine in that same way.
It's kind of interesting too, because I'm thinking of people that I work with who are deeply depressed or stuck in trauma, like a trauma cycle. And some of them find themselves not gravitating towards music, like feeling almost kind of like an apathetic response to music. And I don't know if that, if maybe it makes me think of when you do trauma work, there's going to be this threshold, I sometimes call it, where it's painful and uncomfortable, and you have to kind of work through the threshold to get to the healing properties of whatever the treatment, whether it be EMDR or brain spotting or, cognitive work or whatever. But when I think about music, I almost wonder, in your opinion, are there certain types of music that, and maybe frequencies or, rhythms that you think someone listening who maybe isn't drawn to music normally, maybe it doesn't make them feel comfortable because whether it's depression, trauma, but it's like this is a gentle way to get yourself towards the threshold. This is very medicinal. I don't even know if maybe that's some of the music you play, because I know I had asked you today if you could play some music too. I thought
I
that would have
mean,
been,
I
yeah,
do have, I am, as you see, I'm surrounded by it in here.
yeah,
I have a keyboard over here. I've got,
yeah. You can give us some,
I do have the
samples.
violin.
And I
Yeah.
love the violin so much. It's like one of my favorite instruments. I love it.
Yeah, I'll give you like so basically this violin is tuned, as I was mentioning, into 432 hertz frequency now. So it's going to be slightly even more potentially impactful, and there's something about having the intention. Like music is not just what you play, but so you create the intention of something, and then and then I just like to sink into that feeling myself and then transmit that into what we create. So we'll just see what happens here.
Oh, I have like chills.
Hey.
That was really
Yeah,
beautiful.
so I mean it's morning, so I was thinking about the morning just now. I was thinking about how the sun is just coming up here where I'm in Los Angeles, and what it would be to I was always thinking of like what would it be to massage the soul. So I was imagining like I was like massaging someone in their soul with the music, and just like what would that feel like. And that's sometimes what I'll do. I'll just come up with a visual like that and then see what happens. It's all improvisation. I wasn't those are and if I did it again it would be a completely different thing, because it's coming from the moment of sending intention and visualization into something, and then allowing the vibration to then deliver that feeling to the world. And then everyone else is again going to have their own individual experience. Like you might feel something different, it might hit you differently than someone else. That's why I think it's very much a dynamic experience with music. And to bring up your point you were just talking about, where some people might have blocks to get there because everyone's got their own traumas that they're working through. So I think it's really about, you know, whoever is working with them. Like if it's me, if I'm doing the practitioner, I'm a performer, I travel out on tour, I'm a stage like rock and roll musician, but also I look at myself as a practitioner because I do want to like work one on one or in groups of people. And I've done a lot of, vibration work doing chanting, this Indian chanting from India
Oh, that's
in the
awesome.
language, yeah, Sanskrit. It's called kirtan, and there's bhajans, and there's like this, I've done a lot of that, where it's not only just the music now. Now you're dealing with Sanskrit words, which have their own healing power to them, and the pronunciation of them, and the meaning of those ancient words that are, creating vibration. And I've noticed people have multiple different experiences of breaking down into laughter or tears or crying within a 3 hour period of doing these musical journeys. And again, everyone has their experience at a different time. Like, so one person might have it 20 minutes in, and the other person might be sitting there kind of tight, and then somehow maybe by the end they're breathing and relaxing, and then they have their experience. And so each person's got a different set of experiences that they're going through, and the music might hit them in a different way at a different time. So I just really want to bring patience to the situation, and also kind of read the room a little bit, and also really feel each person and be like, okay, I think I need to slow down a little bit, just be a little more intuitive and trust my intuition with feeling where someone is, with their emotions.
I love that so much. I mean, you sound like, I don't know if you know whether or not you're a highly sensitive person, but you sound like one.
I believe I am. I think I walk into a room and certainly feel different people and what they're going through. And a lot of times at a party, I might walk in and just feel all sorts of different energies and read the room a bit. But then I've done a lot of breathing where I ground myself into it, where I'm not like taken down by the turbulence. Because it can be really intense to be highly sensitive. And I've definitely felt
Yes.
that. And I've been now working on being able to be at my strength and grounded, so that I can still, so I don't get like knocked down by the turbulence of sensitivity, I guess, if I want to call it that.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, I love that because sometimes I talk with my sensitives that I work with, and really just in general, and something I'm mindful of the difference between empathy and compassion from a like neurobiological level, and how empathy is, we know it's putting yourself in someone's shoes, feeling what they're feeling. But from an immune standpoint, it can actually have a negative immune response. If we get stuck in empathy too much, it can constrict blood vessels and increase inflammation. Whereas compassion, which is action oriented, is a positive for our immune system. It dilates, it expands blood flow. And I could see how your work that you're doing is kind of like taking the empathy response, like, okay, I'm feeling and I'm noticing these things, and now I'm going to do something with that for these people. It's not always, I think compassion is not always, I'm going to go out and actually save the world.
Right.
It's, I'm going to touch the world with whatever this action is, whether it be meditation or music. So, did you say the turbulence of sensitivity? Is that how you
Yeah.
put it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just freestyling, I'm riffing here, but I
I
just feel
like
like,
it.
I feel like life is hitting us with stimuli regardless, whether it's emotional from being around people or just, the stress of life itself. And I like to look at it as kind of turbulence, like high levels of stimuli are coming in. If we're if we're not grounded in our breath and in our meaning in our minds, because there's different places where we're handling life. We're handling it in our
Yeah.
mind, obviously how we think, the thoughts we choose to have, that affects everything because that ripples into our emotions. Our breath helps that. If we're holding our breath, like you just said, if we're tight, then we're either blocking emotion or trapping emotion and feeling, something. And so there's all these different aspects that we can work on releasing. And I like to use the word release a lot, because you can release the thoughts in your mind, you can release your breath, you can release the emotion and all those kinds of things. So if the turbulence is coming, it's like a tree, and the stronger the roots are of the tree in the ground, when the wind comes, the tree might sway a bit, which is fine, but as long as the roots are there, it's not going to get broken or knocked over. And I think that's how I like to metaphor life itself when stuff's coming in, whether it's money or relationships or people or politics or all the stuff in the world that's stimulating everybody. People are on social media, people are getting stressed, and I think grounding ourselves to that doesn't mean you're avoiding the emotion. It just means you're able to withstand and still be with it and feel it and process it and take it in and drink it, and then breathe in, but also breathe out and release it so that you're not getting
Right.
caught. You're not creating more traumas inside. Because if you're not releasing it, you're actually storing more trauma in our fascia, our whole
Right.
fascial, our electrical fascial system, which is all, like just electrical. And we're storing stuff in our organs and our tissues. And that's why I do a lot of fascial release work too, where I target certain organs and I breathe and I do like counter rotation and all these different things to release emotion that gets trapped in there. It does build up over time. So it's a lot of different release work I do, but music's part of it, breathing, breath work, meditation, fascial maneuvers, somatic work. Sometimes you need to go hard and do like a bashing session. There's lots of ways to release emotion, for sure, stored emotion.
I love that because it does speak to the point that sometimes there's different types of music that are going to be the medicine you need in the moment. And to speak of fascia, just for people who don't really know of it, I once heard it being like the blanket of muscle memory over our whole body, like this this delicious but goopy like kind
Yeah.
of covering. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen, I was in a yin yoga training and they had us do this really interesting exercise, which I can do and I'll explain. If someone's just listening, it may or may not make as much sense, but have you ever seen it where you hold your finger up? Is this something that you've seen before
That sounds
with
familiar. Like,
fascia? Right.
and
So you
yeah.
hold your finger up and you hold it really rigid and then you
Mm.
press on it and you see how far back you can go.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's muscle. That's what we all know of. That's the part that we say, "Oh, my muscles ache or this aches." But then if you release and relax your finger and then you see how much further back it goes, that's the fascia. That's like when the fascia is making movement. And it's so crazy to think of how much more movement we can have when we are able to stay stronger in something to like let the fascia do what it knows to do. We'll have to do a whole episode on fascia. I was curious, have you ever heard of Safe and Sound Protocol?
Yeah. Tell me more.
So it's something that I offer at my private practice, and I thought you'd be interested in the science of it, and I'd be curious your thoughts on it. So it's based on
I think
Dr.
that's what
Stephen.
I think when you sent me your original link, that's why I was like, this sounds familiar, like a recent. I was trying to figure out why, and it must have been when I was exploring your website recently.
Oh, awesome. Well, yes. So it's based on Dr. Stephen Porges' work on the polyvagal theory. And it's a listening therapy that it's meant initially is meant to be 5 hours, 1 hour a day, 5 days consecutively. But through further research, they've realized you can break it up 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, but you want it to be consistent. And it's prosodically altered music. So prosody for people listening is kind of that safe upper level register sound, thinking of like a mother speaking to a baby. And if I'm wrong on any of this, please let me know. But when we've been in a trauma cycle, or whether it be medical trauma or external trauma, relationship trauma, our vagus nerve, which is responsible for feeling safe, can start to hypertune to low frequencies.
Yes.
And the way I explain it to my clients is it's kind of like having a drum that's slack on the top. And when
Mm.
you hit the drum, all you hear is that low growl. If your body's always getting the low growl frequency, it has a hard time getting out of that fight flight kind of like trauma state. So the listening therapy is meant to strengthen the structure around the vagus nerve
Mm.
simply by listening to altered music for that period of time. And it is wild what it can do. I wasn't sure if that's something you've heard of or just
No, I
from
mean,
your,
and
yeah.
this is actually, again, I think I'm just familiar with the name now because of exploring your site, but I think that this sounds like something I want to know more about. It does, because like when you're explaining it, it sounds logically, it makes sense, but I don't know enough about it to have a direct experience other than saying, hey, like I'm interested. You got me intrigued.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it
and
makes sense.
I'm
It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's pretty neat too because what's going on around you while you're listening makes an impact. So I'm curious your thoughts on that because when I'm giving people their orientation, I let them know like definitely no screens in the room other than the app you're using, no other sounds, no caffeine, no crunchy foods. Like you have to like if you have to eat, make sure it's soft so it's not impacting the inner ear. If anyone's in the room with you, they have to be someone that makes you feel safe and grounded. Don't do anything overstimulating. Like you're really working to help your nervous system be in a calm, safe state while you're doing it. So, from your experience, do you have any thoughts on like the impact of music on the vagus nerve or just your hypothesis of why this would even work for people, like doing
Yeah.
things like this?
I mean, like logically, right off the bat, the reason it would work is because that's where all it's all about receptors. And if you're putting yourself in an environment where, again, like you just said, ideally you want to have an environment that feels safe without these side distractions. You don't want the body to be triggered by any, and that's where you're creating an environment that's clean, right? The cleaner the environment, the more open, the more we are in the state of empty. And from empty, we're at the greatest place of listening. And if our listening ability is open, then we have the higher ability to receive the benefits. And that's where, and it's directly connected to our nervous system. So our entire nervous system, again, is a series of signals that are coming from the brain. You have the all the spinal cord, all the nerves that go everywhere. They're all sending electrical signals back and forth. They're sending information like a computer system. And so if you have that computer system fully defragged into to a point where it's working in optimal, like the RAM, you've got like a lot of RAM, meaning you have a lot of space. That's what I like to look at. Another analogy is like on a computer, it's about having as much RAM as you can so that the CPU can handle the incoming data. You also want to lower as much of stuff that's happening, so you're lowering the amount of work that's happening so that you have more room to actually be able to handle the function. And that means now the brain can operate at maximum capacity, the nervous system can operate, you get the vagus nerve, and now you're at this place where the vibration has the most impact, you have the most potential for healing because you're the most relaxed. Now we're slowing the heart rate down, which is, again, one of the biggest things. That's why athletes, they always ask, what's your resting heart rate? Because those are like those are metrics that tell you where you are in terms of health and relaxation. We've noticed when we're meditating, we're doing long, slow breaths, meditating for a long time, the heart rate goes down, blood pressure goes down. So these are kind of some of the goals on a scientific level you want to get to when you're dealing with healing, especially with music and all of the above, is seeing how relaxed you can get. And the way you can measure that is your heart rate and your blood pressure. And then and right in response comes your cortisol, which is the stress hormones, which decreases, eventually increase serotonin. So those are all the benefits. And that's where this sounds like it has the potential to really help with that in a massive way. I definitely want to explore it.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll have to stay connected so that I can help you, access it and maybe learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah,
You
awesome.
had mentioned chanting before,
Yeah.
and when I think about vibrations to the vagus nerve, that seems like there would be a nice segue or connection with that. I'm curious if you could speak about chanting, how also maybe someone who's not familiar or comfortable with the idea of doing it might be able to do it, and I don't know if you even have like an example or a way that someone could try it.
Yeah. I mean, here we go. We got the next thing over here.
Woohoo.
Right. But no, I mean, to preface it, if we get into history, I mean, for thousands of years, every culture has had people singing together in community of some kind, whether it's indigenous cultures, whether it's in church, singing Ave Maria in a beautiful cathedral with the vibration and the acoustics, or in India, which is what I was referring to with chanting specifically. But I look at all of it as chanting: the Hebrew chanting, the
Hmm.
Islamic chanting in the morning when you go to an Islamic country or Indonesia and it's 4 in the morning, they start chanting. And what it is that everyone is like not only getting the benefits of the words themselves, which are intention, because it's bringing in divinity, which is divine, right? Divine divinity. We are vibration. So it's however people want to look at it, whether they're religious or not. There's something that's being invocated. That's why it's called an
Hmm.
invocation. And then it's like a spell. It's like a magic spell of
Hmm.
intention, the words, and the meaning. It's like, okay, we're going to chant these things that have a positive intention. Like, I am surrendering to a greater power that's greater than me, and I'm
Mm.
blessing everyone in the world. I'm blessing myself. I'm receiving the blessings. If you translate all of these prayers in the world, they all kind of mean something along those
Something
lines of
very
like,
similar, yeah.
and I'm just saying it in English, and so whether it's in Arabic or Christian or Hebrew or Sanskrit, the language that I have a background in, there's still basically some sort of feeling of surrendering, which is important as a human to let go, into something that's greater than ourselves. So now you're respecting the world, you're respecting nature, you're respecting God, you're respecting how great and amazing and beautiful this life is, and you're just really just respecting existence. To me, that's like one of the most amazing things is to surrender and respect how amazing, because we sometimes we take life for granted, and that's why Thanksgiving's cool. It's like a reminder of gratitude. Imagine gratitude like Thanksgiving every time you pray. That's what that's about. And I think that's the goal of it. So that's what chanting is to me, is just regardless of religion or not. That's why a lot of people might have, a resistance to it because of religion. I think just bring gratitude into it, and then and we're all back. We're all unified. We can all get behind gratitude, I hope. So
Yes, absolutely. I love that.
that's how I like to look at it. So then we get into like, well, there's different cultures that, so I go to a church the same. I go to a church, I'll go to a mosque, I'll go to a synagogue, I'll go to a temple. And if I'm just thinking about, hey, this is a place where everyone's intending gratitude together and they're doing it in their cool little way, then I can play along and feel the same feeling, and without the stigmas of like, oh, they're trying to convince me of some religion thing. Because I don't like, I like to look at like what's the positive benefit here. So I think chanting is the same kind of thing where, you don't need to understand what it means, but because a lot of times that gets your head involved, it's cerebral. It's just feel it. If you
Right.
just feel it, sometimes it's better. Like I listen to Latin, chants in a cathedral in St. Paul's in London, and it's just I don't know necessarily what Dominus Deum. I kind of do now because I studied some Latin, but it's still more about the feeling. And the same thing with
Right.
the Sanskrit chanting, like it's just like a Om. So you've probably heard Om. Your audience has heard this word Om. Like, what is that? I just explain it as we go. Om it represents the vibration of the entire universe, basically. Imagine like there was a hum underneath all of existence, and Om, imagine that. That's like setting the intention for what Om is. So, like, like, why are we chanting Om 3 times? It's like, well, we're just honoring the universe itself and the vibration of that and bringing that into our entire body. And like our body is electrical the same way we have these chakras, which are these spinning centers that go up and down, and you're basically imagining all of them being activated, so we're creating an open channel of release, so there's nothing blocking it anywhere. So that's kind of like what I like to do. So it's like Om, and then there's a mantra. A mantra is something that you repeat, and there's one called the Gayatri mantra, which represents the entire, it's basically the sun, the vibration of the sun, the 3 layers of consciousness, the 7 layers of consciousness, the 3 worlds. It's just like this way of explaining how complex existence is, so complex. And so they explain it in these ways that are never going to do justice because it's translated to real words. But behind all that is like, this is just massive, if you look at it like that. So it's like existence is just beyond our three-dimensional ability to fathom, and so we'll do our best as humans to chant this stuff in these different religions, and everyone's just doing their best to like explain the unexplainable. So this is the Gayatri mantra, which is the sun. So it's like Om Bhur Bhuvassuvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuvassuvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhur Bhuvassuvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. So 3 is sort of a special number in a lot of cultures all over the world. So we do it 3 times. So you can do it 8 times, not 7 times. You can do it 1,000 times. And then just Om Shanti means peace. So we end with Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful.
Thank you.
I closed my eyes and got into
Yeah, I mean, I can't
it.
I can't help it when I'm doing it too. Like even when I was playing violin, I because I want to feel it, and there's a lot of stimulus in the room, right? So even that, if you shut the eyes, now you've turned off that external, you can really drop into the feeling. So when I'm chanting, I just reflexively, intuitively close my eyes too. And then, people, when I'm doing the chanting, with a group, and again, I've chanted in English. I've sung in churches my whole life too. I've gone to Hebrew synagogues, and I've just been always a fan of the fact that so many cultures have chanting. Even now, getting into medicine ceremony and Pachamama, like in the South American chanting in the medicine circles, it's very much like this feeling of unifying everyone into a field together, where and that's just as much as Michael Jackson singing "Heal the World" or going to a Coldplay concert. Everyone's in a field together, singing along
Yeah.
or receiving the same thing. And there is something about, they've said, like, strength in numbers, that like 100 people meditating creates a ripple, 1,000 people creates a bigger ripple. They've actually shown that it can create in a peaceful vibration in an area, to the point where if you have like 10,000 people in a town meditating together, it can actually lower crime rates.
Oh,
That's
that's so wild.
that's some powerful studies right there. And
Yeah.
I've been in a meditation with 3 million people together, breathing together one time in
Where was
India.
that? Oh, in
And
India.
in a massive, and it makes sense because India, a lot of people, but
I
there's
know.
a,
I was like, I can't imagine in America where that would
it
be.
wasn't here, but I mean,
You're
I've
like, it
been
was a
part of.
Taylor Swift concert. No, I'm just
Well,
kidding.
I mean, there are big, big venue like the Beatles. I don't know if in the later years of the Beatles, they got into chanting, and specifically George Harrison. I mean, all the Beatles went to India, wrote 42
Mhm.
songs in India. Like most of the White Album
Whoa.
and Rubber Soul were written in India because they were meditating, learning transcendental
Oh, that's
meditation
cool.
at the ashram in North India, which is now nicknamed the Beatles Ashram. And there's all this Beatles memorabilia there because they spent more than a year writing music there. And again, part of the White
Hmm.
Album and Rubber Soul was written in India. And so they did have and then George Harrison went on to do a chant album, Hare Krishna, which ended up being like a top 10 album in London at the time. And that
Oh,
was back
cool.
in the 70s, and 80s, where he
Hmm.
was doing that. So, there is a chanting culture that the Beatles did also bring to the West, because everyone was curious back in the 60s. What are these guys doing in India? What are they there? Why are they
Hmm.
there? What are they studying? Meditation? Who's this yogi, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, that they're all hanging out with? And there was
Mm.
curiosity because they're the Beatles.
Right.
And then Madonna went to India and came back with an entire album called Ray of Light with chanting and Sanskrit on
Oh,
that album.
yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, that album's got Sanskrit all over it. And then Alanis Morissette went to India and came back. Thank you, India. And then, so there's
Yes.
something that happens as people on these spiritual quests end up over there. Michael
Hmm.
Jackson was known to have a deep affinity for Indian culture and chanting as well. And
Mm.
and so it is kind of like if you're at a Taylor Swift concert, if everyone's got the intention, and there's a positive message and a positive song, and there's 70,000 people feeling it, they're gonna walk away going,
Right.
"Wow, that was amazing! I felt so good." And so there is that's the power of music right there.
I definitely notice anytime being at a concert, like you can show up and you might feel tense, maybe the traffic, maybe I don't know, like getting through all the tailgaters or whatever,
Parking.
parking. And then I do notice, and I don't know if it's because it takes a little bit of time for our body to like open up. And I would imagine someone who is maybe more used to doing it on a regular basis. Maybe they're someone who meditates a lot, they open themselves up quickly. And then other people, maybe they're not as familiar or practiced. It might take a little while. But I always have this moment, no matter what concert, where I suddenly look around and I'm like, I just love everyone here. like, like you just
Totally.
feel so much more communal with who you're with for some reason.
Yeah, that's the thing. It feels like family, and that's the thing about music festival culture. Because as a touring
Yeah.
musician, I've spent a lot of time now in that world where you're going to concerts, whether it's Grateful Dead or whether it's Burning Man or whether it's all the conscious yoga festivals or just Coachella. There is a feeling of family when you're at these things, and then
Yeah.
you're random strangers, and I just love you, man, and like everyone's like hugging each other and having a good time, because there's the science around large numbers of people gathering with positive intentions together, and how there's more than just being there. There's a field. It's like a magnetic field, an auric field, and
Right.
it has a shape to it. There's a torus. I'm sure you're familiar with the torus, which is a shape, what the shape of a field is. And if you look at a magnet, it has these arrows that come up out of it, almost like a donut shape, and it comes out of the middle and goes around and comes back in on every side. And then they've done studies to show that that's the same field that we have. That's what the aura has, the exact same field. So it's coming up through our feet, up out of our crown chakra, which is what it's called, the purple color, and comes out and back around again. And that's the same shape as an aura, is the same as a magnet, is the same as the Earth's field, as the same as an atom. And it's like, oh, wait a second, this same fractal, this same shape is everywhere in nature,
Right.
and it's
Oh, that's
literally a
so
toric
cool.
field. So imagine now, if we imagine ourselves as a bunch of magnets, electromagnets, walking around with our emotions and our feeling, and if we're feeling good, we're more charged with positive auric field, and that field now hits other people, and then now we're talking about being highly sensitive, like you, like this entire, your entire, yeah, theme, your entire website is about being, about tapping into that. And what is sensitivity then? It's being able to feel the field. And so you're
Right.
feeling other people's fields, and then now this is where we get into the sensitivity we talked about, and being resilient to the turbulence is like, if I'm feeling someone else's field and they're down, and I'm not strong enough in my field, then I might start having my field shift colors and feel their sadness more and get taken down by it. So now my intention is to have my field so strong with healing and joy that instead of them shifting my field for sadness, I'm going to shift their field to joy. And that, because we can all shift each other's fields. So whose field's going to win? Is their sadness stronger than my joy? Well, let's work on my joy being strong enough that it can create ripples of joy everywhere I go, and that can be through music or through vibes or walking in a room and being like, "Hey, what's up, everybody?" And like, I grew up insecure. I'm an only child Indian kid from with a background of being bullied as a kid, and so I have a lot of insecurity walking into a room. So it's been like a practice to go, "Hey, instead of walking in like that, let me just do the let me overcompensate." And sure, it started out with overcompensating, and now it's become like a positive habit. But now I can feel like walking into a room and I have to set a little more intention. Maybe the next person who's less insecure, maybe my insecurity caused me to create this strength, but it was for a benefit. And maybe someone else is walking in naturally just comfortable. I don't. So I've created more of like a little bit of work that I do, a little personal work. I'm like, I take a breath and I'm like, and I take some affirmations about being, I have nothing to prove. There's things my own personal mantras that I need to say because of my journey on value and self-worth. And I've created ways to compensate for that. So when I walk into a room, I'm not comparing myself and thinking I'm not cool anymore, like I felt in middle school when I was getting rejected at middle school lunch, and people, for example, like at the cafeteria. And so it's the same kind of thing. Now I'm shifting my field where I'm not like a victim of other people's thoughts that are all delusions in my own head, because half of them probably are doing their own thing, not even thinking about me. And that's what insecurity is believing
Totally.
other people are thinking about us when they're thinking about themselves too. We're all going through our thing. So if I get rid of that first, and then I open my field up to being like, yeah, I have something of value. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. I'm here to love. And then I walk in, I can actually notice a big difference on how I'm feeling and also how the room
Mhm.
feels. It's a difference. I can
Mm.
see it. I can see that intention improving the room when I walk into it now, as I set that intention. So that's the power of the field.
I love that because I know most people have probably heard fake it till you make it. And I like the intention behind that statement. I don't like using the word fake though, because
Fake.
I think right, I think it kind of takes away the effort and the work when we're trying to learn something.
Sure.
Really anything, like you were saying, if your natural tendency is to kind of slip into an insecure narrative, if instead you make an intention that no, I want my narrative to be an open field, I want it to be of positivity and love, and you set an intention to do that and you do that, isn't that kind of the same thing as the whole fake it till you make it? So
Right. And exactly.
it's
That's just what,
really choosing.
exactly. No, that's why that phrase again, if we look at like what it's really meaning, it's really just saying, hey, you know what, you gotta look the part or whatever. And then sometimes eventually you start feeling it later, and sometimes that's just how it's got to go, depending
Right.
on where we are. So I don't mind that phrase in this context, because I'm gonna walk in feeling good, and over time it becomes a natural, authentic thing. I am feeling good walking in the place. I am feeling good walking on stage. I might be a little nervous, which is normal, but I'm gonna use that in a positive way. I'm gonna add that emotion to the music and just like channel whatever the emotion is into what I need in that moment. Sadness, happiness, joy, nervousness, anxiety. Let's feel it. Let's be with it, and then use it and channel it alchemically into whatever it is we need to do to serve, and bring it in and
Right.
just bring it into the next moment.
And I would imagine the healing work you've done and the ability to use music in the way you have probably makes your version of fake it till you make it even more powerful. Like it's the source is there to tap in from. And so I'm curious, when you think about people listening today who are thinking, okay, this sounds great. How do I very easily today start using music in my healing journey? What is just like a practical thing they could do? You've talked about chanting, you've talked about listening and making music and different hertz and different frequencies. Like, what is the thing that, and really part of it is going to be what they're drawn to, but what's something that you think is just like, yeah, this is a great big bang for your buck, go for it and receive the healing?
Yeah, and you nailed it right there at the end where, and I think
Oh
I was
no, I
bringing it.
answered the question.
Well, no, not necessarily. I think we talked about it earlier how it is a very personal experience, and we gave examples of like, like I've got a song that reminds me of a thing, for example. So I think I would say there's a couple things that a person, an audience, like someone in your audience could do out there is first, let's find some songs that spark certain memories and have those kind of ready on deck anyway, and that's up to the individual. But I think in terms of something that everyone can get into, I think there's different frequencies that are out there, and you can go online and like literally type in 528 hertz, 528 hertz, or 432 hertz healing frequencies, and set on YouTube these days, and you can type in your intention for success, for relaxation, for
Oh,
sleep,
okay.
and all of those kind of things. And there's people that have created, and I'm working on a whole set of those right now. Right now, I have like songs. I've been writing uplifting songs and anthems, like "We Are the World" type anthems. And my new song is called "Together We Rise," which just came out about 6 weeks ago, and that's in
Oh,
432 hertz
congratulations.
frequency. Yeah, thank you. And I think that's like something to listen to. Like if people want to go and listen to that song or songs like that, like Bob Marley, uplifting lyrics. That's one thing, is lyrics can uplift you, but at the same time, there's also completely instrumental music, isotonic frequencies, binaural beats. These are things that specifically are designed to actually create theta wave, delta wave, different types of wave frequencies where you close your eyes, maybe put on one of those like eye patch thingies, eye goggles things that blocks out the light, and close your eyes and lay down and just listen to an hour of isotonic frequencies at 528 hertz, for example, or binaural beats. And if they type these things in on YouTube, you'll generally find what I can work on too is I can create a nice list of things for this specifically, because I've been just kind of doing it directly with people, but I'm actually working as we speak on having resources to answer your question for
Oh,
people to be able to
awesome.
get direct links for like, hey,
Yeah,
if you
if you
want
have one, I'm
relaxation.
happy to share it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'll have that ready for you in the next couple of days. I'll send you like a nice list.
Perfect.
And
Awesome.
that
Oh,
way
I
people
can't wait to
can.
use it.
Yeah, and people can access stuff, and it'll be some 20-minute long ones or hour-long ones. And sometimes when I'm working all day, I'll put on. They have these ones on YouTube that are just going on 24 hours, 24/7, and it just put it on in the background, and it also shifts the room. I'll leave it on while I'm gone, and I'll come back, and the room will feel different because it's the frequency's been, just injecting itself into the room, and it'll feel like a
Right.
more peaceful house. So,
That's
I would
awesome.
say that, and I'd say some of the chanting, if people are interested, there's different types of chanting they can get into, whether it's Sanskrit or Indian or just or other types of chanting and Native American chanting, whatever, and just closing your eyes and sitting with these special indigenous cultures that have a really direct connection to nature. And I think a lot of the stuff that I've studied from my culture, from India and other cultures of the world, like it came directly from nature. And so there's something special about that. It's like it was before all the technology and before our brains and computers, and there's something that really organically came into these chants, and
Right.
that you can't recreate that with technology. Like it's just directly from the earth, and they have their feet in the ground, feeling connected, and the sun's out, and there's a tree or an animal or a buffalo, and something about that is just so raw. Like just like
Right.
I can go to the gym, which is I love exercising, but like when I go on a hike and I'm like running up a mountain, it's a
Very
combination
different.
of it's a different feeling. And so the same
Yeah.
thing with indigenous music or chanting, I'd say like yeah, so your audience, like finding specific songs for them that are emotional, either relaxing or uplifting, or that help release some of these frequency sound healing journeys, which I'll provide links for, or just getting into nature, and then also just singing. Like just I think people should find things they love and sing along, like karaoke, and I was at karaoke recently at my friend's house, and they just had a machine, and I forgot how fun it is when everyone's just laughing and just being silly together. And it's something so simple of just being silly and singing with your friends. Like it really does create a lot of joy. So now these are all there's a lot, there's
Awesome.
infinite ways to have music be a healing experience.
I love it. And one idea with the chanting to throw out there, if you're someone who's not feeling so comfortable with the words or the different languages, or you can't follow along, scientifically speaking, even just humming the
Hmm.
tunes is super powerful and a great kind of stepping stone into that healing, in my opinion. I don't know if that's something that you agree with.
No, it's true. It's literally true. And then and even your phrase "fake it till you make it" comes into place. We would say something along those lines when we were doing when I was doing the satsang, the kirtan, which is the Indian Sanskrit chanting, and it's like and in India it's a call and response. It's called that's what kirtan is in the yoga community. You'll probably hear that word come up where someone's like leading the chant and they sing it and then everyone sings it back and it creates a circle. And a lot of times you're like, hey, you don't know the words. It might sound complicated that it's in Sanskrit. People just like just like just literally say syllables, like fake it till you make it, because it's just the act of opening your mouth and vibrating will create that response,
Yeah,
even
that's
if you don't get the
beautiful.
words right. So just it's about letting go of perfectionism, letting go of getting it right, and just really focusing more on just like being innocent, being free of judgment, and just opening your voice and just holding back. Because I think that's one of the biggest blocks that people on the planet, and kind of almost like an actual societal thing I've noticed is that our throat chakras are blocked as a society. With all the cancel culture and there's censoring and there's all these different, or like people scared of being judged for something, their opinions, or for political reasons, or if I sing, someone's gonna think I'm a bad singer, and we've kind of hindered ourselves, and people are like, oh, I don't sing, and we're saying affirmations that are anti-affirmations, like I'm not a singer. That's an anti-affirmation.
Yeah.
And I think we can all be like, I am a singer. I have a voice. My voice has value. I'm here to serve, and just switch all the language up and just open our voices and sing freely and don't even care what anyone thinks. I think that would be a healthy thing to bring back to society as an overall, cultural, evolution again, to just freedom and expression. Self-expression
Yeah.
is so important for release.
So powerful. So I'm
Hmm.
curious if, you would mind maybe playing some music to sign us off today. And
Yeah.
if you want to quickly also mention where people can find you and your future projects, because I absolutely am going to go find some of your music and listen to it, because just the little bit I've had, your voice, oh my gosh, like it hit such a frequency in my heart and it was so
Oh,
beautiful. So,
well, thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, I would say, my name is Deepak, so deepakworld.com, and most people spell it DEEPAK, which is the Deepak Chopra. And if you do deepakworld.com, it'll still go to my site, but I spell my name DPAK, just four letters, no E's. So DPAK World. And that's the website, that's the social media, TikTok, Instagram. It's all Deepak World. And there's music on there, and then it's my mission statement. And I'm actually in the process of building out Deepak World, starting to offer a lot more than just the music, because I've spent my life doing healing, doing medicine, doing health and wellness, empowerment, motivational speaking, and I've been doing it in the public, but I haven't really built it online yet. And so that's what Deepak World is about to be in the next few months. Is I'm going to offer a lot of the stuff that I've been doing in the real world, and bring it into the online space so people can have access to
So cool.
interviews like this, but also more than just the songs. But my music's also under Deepak and Deepak World. Instagram is a great place to go. It has like the latest clips all the time. I usually keep it updated. And this is the song that I just released. It's in the morning right now,
Awesome. I
pretty
was
early.
hoping you would play this.
We'll see how the morning voice is, but this is "Together We Rise," and again, it's an intention to be an anthem for unity, especially in a divisive world and a polarized world where people are arguing about this and that. I just feel like we need to get beyond that as a people and realize how much we have in common, how much we are actually unified at the heart, even if the media wants to tell us otherwise, even if we think that everyone's the enemy. I've gone all over the country, I've gone all over the world, and every time I meet people in person, I haven't found an enemy yet. So I think what we're being told, it may not be as accurate to like what's really happening in the real world. And I think I want to remind people that together we rise. Rise up from the ashes, rise up from the flames. See through the lies that feed the fires that we create. Come out from the shadows, come out in plain sight. Nothing to lose, it's time to move into the light. Yeah, together, united, deny it or fight it, no more hiding anymore. Our story, we write it or lose it, we can't keep quiet anymore. 'Cause together we will rise, together we will rise, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Together we will rise, together we will rise, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Oh, oh, now we're fighting for the lives of our sons and daughters. It's a war we're gonna lose if we divide ourselves apart. Yeah, it's time to rip the veil that covers everything. The talking heads that wanna make us blind. And when we strike back, shoot love into the skies. Together, united, deny it or fight it, no more hiding anymore. Our story, we write it or lose it, we can't keep quiet anymore. 'Cause together we will rise, together we will rise, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time. Together we will rise, together we will rise, together we will rise. Can't wait any longer, it's our time, yeah, 'cause it's our time.
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful. Oh, I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky.
That's some early morning right there.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, the song's out now, easy
yes.
to find. It's got a big sound, and then it's also it's a partnership with my musical partner's not here right now. So when you hear his voice, Johnny Twilight, giving him a shout out. We wrote the song together. He sings with me on it. We have these harmonies together. And so
Awesome.
when you go on to Instagram, you'll see there's another guy there. That's Johnny Twilight. And
Who's that? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my partner.
Great.
We co-wrote the song together as an anthem. The intention is to get this song as big as it can all over the world, so it becomes like, you know, an anthem for unity, you know, because like I think
beautiful.
we need it right now, and you know the world needs it. So we want to just kind of bring that medicine song to the world. It's in 432 hertz also, so it's embedded with that
cool,
that healing frequency on top of it,
Purposely.
that. So yeah, and then we're gonna work.
Thank you so much. I feel like you just gave me and everyone listening a gift. I am so grateful that your path crossed mine and I got to sit down with you today. This was healing and awesome, and I can't wait for people to hear your music and all of your ideas, and I just wish you so much luck. I just hope everyone hears this song, and I'm just so excited to keep following you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. It was a great conversation, and I'm excited to check out the safe and sound. Like
I'll stay connected and get you linked up with it. Okay, awesome. All right, bye everyone.
Blessings.